Henry Bolton's here, OBE, International Border Control Expert. Henry, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
So,
Morning.
apparently now Keir Starmer's discovered that he wants to crack down on immigration. This may or may not be in some way connected to the results of the elections last Thursday.
Indeed. He wants to crack down on it, but what he's tinkering with the visa regime a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it amounts to nothing apart from smoke and mirrors, Mike, really. And we've got the, those figures out now on the costs of housing the asylum seekers in the United Kingdom. And the numbers have gone up, actually, from in the last 5 years, 5 and a bit years, have gone up from 47,000 asylum seekers in the United Kingdom to 112,000.
Yeah.
And we're accommodating at taxpayers' expense around about 109,000 of those.
Yeah.
So that's a heck of a lot of money.
Well, the figures in the Telegraph today, £3,172 a minute is what we're now spending on these asylum seekers, £4.6 million a day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, indeed. And the figures, I'm not a mathematical genius, but the figures are around about, as I understand it, about 15 billion a year now. That's 3 times the estimate.
Yeah.
So point number one is how on earth can the planners in the Home Office possibly, I mean, it's not a rounding error in the accounts department.
Yeah.
This is 10 billion pounds they're out, 2/3 of the, it's a massive amount. It's eye-watering. The budget of the Home Office every year is 17 billion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely astounding. So the first thing there really is, it's an absolute demonstration of the failure of planning in the Home Office.
Yeah.
If they can't get this right, if they can't get the figures just within, £1 billion, it might be forgivable.
Yeah.
But to get it wrong by £10 billion is absolutely astounding. And it's important because it's not just taxpayers' money, but it's important because it demonstrates that, once again, that the planning in the Home Office across the board, if it's this bad when it comes to the money, imagine how bad it is when it comes to the operational planning, when it comes to the negotiations with France, when it comes to trying to, if they want to tackle the gangs, fine, tackle the gangs, but you clearly haven't. If you can't even get the figures right, you're not going to get that right.
Well,
either.
that's right. And the problem is that this is supposedly an estimate for the years between 2019 and 2029. So we're sort of roughly a bit more than halfway through. I would guarantee you, Henry, that by the time we get to 2028, the price will have gone up even further. So the 15.3 billion might be true today, but probably in a couple of years' time it'll have jumped to 20 or maybe 25 billion.
Undoubtedly, Mike, because the numbers are increasing. And I've always said that the cost is going to continue to increase. The cost to the taxpayer is going to continue to increase as the number of crossings increase. It's not rocket science. The more people who come here, the more people we have to deal with, whether we want to or not.
Right.
And it's useful just to remind ourselves that no matter, OK, we're accommodating them, that's costing money. But even if we were to put them on aeroplanes and send them somewhere else, that would cost money as well. So there is an ongoing cost. We're not going to get rid of this cost for a long time. It is going to increase. However, what I want to see, Mike, is I want to see that money spent on solving the problem, not just managing the consequences of it and managing it very badly.
Well, quite. Because, I mean, it looks as though in terms of even trying to stop the problem, we're not getting any help from the European Union. The European Commission, according to the Telegraph this morning, is now actively blocking the UK from accessing intelligence on people smugglers. Home Office officials have requested greater access to Europol data, but they're not getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the data you're talking about relates to it's the Schengen database.
Yeah.
And the problem there is that there's two sides to the story. That we're not sharing that information with the Europeans either.
Yeah.
So the Europeans.
But we were never allowed to share the Schengen stuff, were we? But we were at least allowed to share the stuff that was outside of the European Union Schengen agreement countries, but which we now no longer even have access to that.
We actually did have access to the Schengen database. But not, although we weren't party to anything else in Schengen. That was an exception that was granted to us whilst we were in the European Union.
Yeah.
What Keir Starmer now wants is access to that database again, and that's what they're saying that they won't grant, because their argument is that we are not providing them with this, we're not agreeing to give them the same information reciprocally.
Yeah.
So they do have a point. That's the side of the story that's not come out from anybody. So again, what is it we're trying to achieve here, Mike? Because if the Home Office doesn't understand the effect that it's trying to deliver, all of these policies, whether it's trying to gain access to a database because probably the National Crime Agency have said to the Home Office, we want to have access to the database, or whether it's housing these asylum seekers without stemming the flow and therefore increasing the burden on the taxpayer, all of these things are failing to address the root problem.
Yeah.
And the root problem is that we have got a system in place, serve the Europeans, that allows, or that is attractive to economic migrants, that is it's a fairly benign environment for people smugglers, and we continue to provide that pull factor, which is the main thing. What we need to do, Mike, quite simply, is that anyone who tries to enter the United Kingdom illegally must be detained securely. They must be detained ideally in a very remote location so they don't even feel that they're in the United Kingdom until such time either we can deport them or they ask to go home.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And no wonder Keir Starmer isn't having any success, because that's exactly what he's not doing. Henry Bolton, thanks very much indeed. Pin Hitch.